Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Open Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Shibnur Shah, and it's my pleasure to talk about open leadership, open organization culture, and more in relation to various other methodologies, frameworks, principles, and more. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us, someone with deep expertise in connecting organizational outcomes and driving continuous business value. But before we start the conversation, I do want to set a little context about open leadership, especially if you're listening to our podcast for the first time. So before we dive into our discussion, let's talk a little bit about what open leadership is. In a nutshell, open leadership is a mindset and a set of behaviors that actually anyone can adopt and practice. Open leaders really focus on serving others, whether it's an individual, team, or an entire organization, ideally working together towards a shared goal. Open leaders lead with integrity, empowering those around them. And open leadership is built on 5 key principles that form its foundation. These are, think of them as like the pillars of open leadership. And these are transparency, inclusivity, collaboration, community, and adaptability. You can visit theopenorganization.org to learn more. So now that I have it out of the way, moving on, let me just dive in and invite our friend, my guest today, Tim Beattie from Red Hat. So Tim, welcome.
Thank you. I'll
do that again. I'll do that again.
Super pumped, super excited.
I'll do that again. So today I have the pleasure of hosting my friend and ex-colleague from Red Hat, Tim Beattie. Ta-da!
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm really, really pumped and excited to be here. Can't wait. I know this is going to be a great conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tim. You've been really patient. I really appreciate it. So a little bit about Tim. Yeah, Tim is the co-founder and CEO of Stellify, a company that focuses on connecting and measuring outcomes throughout organizations. Before co-founding Stellify, Tim was global head of product for Red Hat Open Innovation Labs, and that's where he and I got to know each other and work together closely. Also, we were involved closely in defining open leadership and really bringing it to our customers. So Tim's career spans over 20 years as an agile and lean coach. Tim is also a proud co-author of DevOps Culture and Practice, a book focused on sharing how to deliver continuous business value. And I'll be sharing the link with you so that you can access that particular book, something that you must have on your shelf. What drives Tim is, and I've seen it in person, I have experienced it firsthand, is about motivating others through energy, personality, and fun. He likes, to sow these strong seeds of inspiration that creates, a space for an environment for a better chance to grow further, not only for individuals, but for teams and for organizations. He likes to work with people in defining culture, but has the ability to innately connect with all those around him. Of course, Tim brings with him a deep experience and knowledge, and that, I'm looking forward to listening from Tim. So Tim, I had to talk about all these things because, this is something that I want people to understand how they can leverage and learn from you, like we have at Red Hat, and our customers have benefited. And I personally have learned a lot from you. Is there anything that I might have missed?
Wow. There's a lot in there. Look, I mean, I guess I've been on a journey for 25 years of my career. I think, my career is 25 years old now. And every part of it has been a learning journey, and I'm still on the journey. So I'm still adapting. I'm still picking up things that have worked well, things that have not worked so well. And I'm trying to sort of make myself a better person, a better coach, a better advocate, a better change agent. So Yeah, I mean, I am where I am now, and I've had so many amazing experiences and worked with incredible people, including yourself and the team, over 5 amazing years at Labs. And who knows what the next few years will be. I expect there'll be new things, and things will change all the time because we're
Yeah.
continuously moving and continuously
Yeah,
adapting.
absolutely. Like I said, and I'll keep bringing that back again and again. I've seen you in action. I've seen you, how you have helped transform teams and how you have touched people's hearts. How you have, the way you mentor, the way you coach, and the kind of respect you have garnered for yourself. It's remarkable. And of course, it is such a privilege for me to have you here, because and in the short span of time, I really, really want our listeners also to kind of benefit from those experiences. And we have some specific topics and themes that we have agreed upon, and I can't wait to dive into that. But before that, tell us a little bit about, you shared with me when we spoke last that you're on, you're actually preparing for a marathon, right? Wow. How's that going?
Yep. Oh God, 6 weeks and 2 days to go until I hit the streets of New York City and run 26.2 miles. So yeah, I've been training, and I don't know if anyone knew me 2 or 3 years ago, they probably would have maybe raised an eyebrow at the thought of me running a marathon. But I've been on a bit of a journey the last few years, and really my sort of health and fitness has been something I've been has just been really good for my own mental and physical well-being. And I decided a year or so ago I really wanted to do this, and I had a good purpose behind it, not just about the running, but raising money for charity and running in memory of some people that were very close to both of our hearts, who we sadly lost recently. And yeah, so I've been on this training regime, which I've been tracking, using a lot of the tools and practices that I use in the workplace. I use them on myself, and I've learned and come up with a few little tricks here and there, which has helped in help kind of adapt and evolve some of the stuff I'm doing at work as well. So yeah, it's been a nice cocktail of lots of things in that journey as well.
That's incredible. I'm sure you applied the entire agile methodology and agile open practices to your preparation.
Yeah. There's been some OKRs, there's been some retrospectives.
Am I surprised?
There's been a lot of synchronization points. So yeah.
Yes, maybe we should record a podcast around that as well.
Well, yeah, let's see. If I can get round the course in 6 weeks' time, maybe we can do a follow-up of these, and we could talk about that a bit more. But yeah, it's been fun.
All the best, yeah. Looking forward to hearing about your experience. Okay, so Tim, today we have agreed and discussed to talk about connecting, and measuring outcomes throughout organizations with open leadership, right? So we've also tried to kind of course, talk a little bit about open leadership and help our audience understands that open leadership doesn't function on its own, right? In my view, it's powered by many other practices and philosophies, especially agile methodology. And the work you have done is very reflective of open leadership in action. So I'm looking forward to having that discussion, talk about what brings open leadership alive through these practices, and then of course hone into outcomes and the purpose and a few other things that goes hand in hand. So something that I want to get out of the way right up front, Tim, is that I've noticed that many people, and including myself at one point, tend to confuse or have confused outcomes with output. Could you share with us the key difference between the two? How is outcome different from output?
Yeah, sure. And I'm not surprised that has emerged over recent years, because with things like agile and teams working, we have naturally started to look at things like velocity as being a measure of a team's output, or how many features can we build, and or how many new functions can we get into a new system, or it's all about, how much stuff can I get into my product, how much productivity can I get out of my team. And with things like, agile and lean, one of the motivations that a lot of people have is, well, we should be able to do more stuff, and we should be able to do it faster. So naturally, they want to be able to measure this. So they think, well, look, we've done this, and now this team did 20 features this month, and last month they did 10 features, and next month we'll do 30. But all of these things, they're just numbers. They're just a count. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're achieving a better impact, right? And you think of applications, or you think of anything that you interact with in life. Sometimes we've just crammed so many features into a product, and a lot of them we just don't use, and we don't care about, and we never will use. And that's an example where there's maybe been a focus on output. It's just been like, let's just churn and get as many of these things into this product as possible. And let's not care about whether they're actually useful. When it's useful and it's being used, it means it's achieving an outcome. It means someone's being able to behave differently, or they're achieving an impact that they maybe weren't able to achieve before. And that's what we're talking about, an outcome. Really good example. Think of the TV remote controls. And TVs in the 90s and the 2000s, those remote controls, how many buttons are on them? Right, 50, 60 buttons, and you've got these with all these little logo. I don't know what they do, but what do most people want to do when they pick up their remote control? They want to turn the TV on or off. They want to turn the volume up or down, and they want to change the channel. I don't know if they need this thing that's got half teletext and not half teletext, and being able to change the size of the picture, or have multiple pictures. These are someone's thought, oh, let's just churn all of these outputs into this remote control, where all you really need is probably 2 buttons. And I think that's a good example of where output's one. But more and more products today in the current markets, it's about, well, let's actually build something that's going to matter and achieve an outcome for a set of people, so that people are experience that impact and are happy with the usage of the product, rather than just being able to say that they're using more outputs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So to me, it seems like when we're talking about output, the focus is on quantity, getting the numbers, getting as much out, so that it gives me a sense of bulkiness, right? That there's and that more, and because when something is more, we tend to perceive that, oh, a lot has been done, and a lot might have been done. But has the objective been achieved? That's the question.
Exactly.
And that's where it seems like that's where outcome become important, right? It's all about impact, what we're expecting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, this is great. So thank you for answering that and getting it out of the way already. In my experience, I have seen organizations, tend to get caught up in delivering more and more outputs, and thinking that the sheer volume equates to success, and this often leads to sort of missed opportunities for real impact, like we just discussed about, which means that what could be done differently, what could be done better. So in your view, and just to kind of crystallize this a little bit and smoothen the rough edges around output, what are some of the common pitfalls organizations face when they focus too much on outputs instead of outcomes? Like, what are the consequences? Like, we've understood the definition of, or at least understood the difference between the two, but what is the cost of focusing on output?
I mean, the real cost is that we might miss that connection to purpose, or that connection to the bigger outcome or the bigger why, that this group of people are even here in the first place and working together in the first place. And I think some managers, leaders, get a little bit focused on getting their team busy, and they track busyness metrics, things like velocity and number of features or lines of code, or number of documents produced, or things like that. And I think the opportunity cost is where two ways could have gone. Maybe we could have achieved and delivered value much earlier. And for some organizations, that's really, really important. The market window is tight, or there's competitive pressure, or there's some seasonal factors, and we may miss that market window because we've just focused on outputs. And if we just focused on the one, researching and finding that one absolutely really important output that's going to achieve the outcome, then we get to market much quicker. So I think that's one loss. I think the other one is that often, if we don't focus on the outcome, we end up with, crappy products that don't actually succeed in the market. We find, lame services that, aren't actually helping people where that they were maybe are supposed to, or someone's idea, someone's vision was that these services are going to help. And because we've focused too much on these outputs, we actually end up with these services that aren't delivering that vision, aren't delivering that impact, aren't connected to that bigger why. And of course, when that happens in organizations start to fail, because if you don't have happy customers, if you don't have happy employees, if you don't have, if you're not delivering outcomes that are connected to bigger purpose and outcomes, ultimately the lagging effect is that the organization doesn't succeed, and it needs to either adapt towards that behavior, or as we often see the case, is that they don't succeed. So that's the ultimate cost here, and this is why it's so important.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm also thinking, when you were speaking about so when we talk about being customer centric, while philosophically we use all these buzzwords in organizations, but truly, how customer centric are we? And if we start thinking about the outcomes that we want for our customers, because we're actually producing those those products or services for our customers, right? And if we start asking ourselves if what those outcomes are, I think it could help us focus our output in alignment with those outcomes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is such an important connection. That's such an important connection. In order to achieve success for our organization, who are the people that really matter? Who are those customers? Who are those users? Who are those stakeholders? And what impact do I want to have on them? And that alone, just having that, giving time to focus on, these are the people that we actually are really matter, the end users, the stakeholders, the beneficiaries, and this is the impact that I want to have. If we can do that, the next step, exactly as you say, Shabnor, is can I connect those features, those outputs? I have this list of 100 things. Let's just say, if I do this, is it going to achieve one of those impacts?
Yeah.
And just almost having that filtering mechanism, that sieve that says, okay, we could build that feature, but I can't see any of those impacts. I can't see how it's going to affect any of those important people.
Yeah.
Well, why are we doing it then?
Yeah.
Why are we even thinking about doing it? And just going through that thought process early, it really sets teams and organizations up for more outcome-centric success.
Yeah, I can see that, sometimes we in teams or as individuals can also get excited about certain things because they resonate so much with us. And this element of letting go can be hard as well, right? I can totally relate to, because we feel so passionate about certain thing that we are creating, but in the process we can lose sight. But if we remember that, if the customer is happy, well, business is happy in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's I think that the two measures for a business, forget, you can have hundreds of measures, but two is our customers happy and our employees happy. If those two things are going really, really well, everything else is going to fall into place. But often one or both of those is suboptimal, and we need to do something about it. But customer happiness is such a key thing to focus on.
Yeah, so nice to hear about that. So customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction in very simple terms. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you remember the org that we worked in together, those were every quarter we reported on those, because we felt that if there are just two metrics that we need to just really home in on, and try and get that, those are the two. There are tons of other metrics because we're a very data-driven organization, but those were the two that we really wanted to make sure that we kept at the forefront of everything.
I mean, it's like they serve like a mirror, isn't it? There's no escaping.
Yeah.
I mean, you can create all or use all the metrics that you want to satisfy, like, how many documents created, how many features like you were delivered, and it can keep you in sort of a self-satisfying loop. But the reality lies with, like, measuring customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction, and requires quite a bit of courage, in my view, especially for leaders and teams to see that, because if you're seeing the truth, you just can't sit with that information. You have to do something to make changes. This is so good.
Exactly.
I just have so many questions and thoughts that are coming up. Tim, you've already gotten me activated. So just to sum up a little bit of what you said, like the cost of just being very output focused as compared to outcome focus is, of course, a disconnection from purpose or the why you exist as a team, as an organization, and that can have an impact again on both customer and employee satisfaction. The other thing you said is that there could be a busyness syndrome, right? You might have a sense of velocity and movement, but it doesn't mean that you're achieving the goals or the objectives that you were hoping to achieve, right? And of course, the products don't succeed because you might think you have made you might have made an amazing product with great features, but if it can't be used, well, guess what? It's the customer who doesn't buy. That means you don't have a happy customer, right? And the services is not helping. But I also am thinking in terms of cost, how they go up, right? So it's kind of looped together. Anyways, I'll not go into the details, because I have a habit of doing that. So I'm just going to sit with this one because I do want to learn from you, and I would love our audience also to learn a little bit from you. You mentioned the word purpose, so I'll not keep it for later. But I've seen you in action and heard you emphasize the importance of understanding the purpose or the why behind what we do, whether in teams or in organizations. Now, when you talk about it or read about it, it seems like, that's of course commonsensical. Every organization does it. Every team does it. We have documents, we have papers to prove that we do it. But you and I both know that while we talk about purpose, I'm not sure how many organizations really, really connect with that purpose. So I want to pick up your brain a little bit to talk to us about, what is the relevance of purpose and the why for organizations and teams. And I would be just happy to listen to your rant.
Yeah, it's, this is the sort of journey I've come on, because early in my career, when I was a graduate IT consultant, I got deployed into lots of projects in technical roles, so development, testing, architecture, team leading, and I tended to work in very fragmented, siloed projects, and these were huge, hundreds, thousands of people involved, and in the when I was early 20s, and you didn't really feel you could ask, or the environment didn't really sort of stop and say, this is the broad why that this client is investing this huge amount of money, and this is what they're trying to achieve, and these are the problems they're trying to solve. We never got that. It was straight into right, well, you need to build this billing interface in C sharp, or you need to update this source code for a provisioning system to connect to this and pull this file down and do this. And I'm okay, I'll follow the thing that this designer or architect has asked me to do. And I think you don't realize the amount of wastage and stress and unhappiness that brings to people when they just are being fed stuff to do and they just can't connect it to why, why they're doing it. And it's such a lost opportunity. And I think about those scenarios and almost shiver when I think about some of those, late nights, having to work weekends. And then I think about some of the projects that weren't like that. And from the outset, I was, even that might have been in similar roles, I was a techie person and that. But from the outset, I knew what the end product that we were contributing to was there to achieve and the problem was trying to solve. And so many times, as I'm maybe helping, with define the business process in the system, if I knew what the actual proposition at the end was about, and I did in this case, it just helped me deliver a better solution. It meant we did things, we got the right thing out quicker. It meant we had business client stakeholders who were happier because we actually knew what we were building and we could empathize with them, and we were in their world. And I felt happier because I felt like I was contributing to something that was fixing a problem that lots of people have. And so there's just a whole set of reasons why being able to just understand why a whole organization are working towards a strategy helps. And I think we've underestimated the wastage by not having that in organizations. And it's just more and more as I've evolved my career and learned more and more frameworks and ways of working and techniques and different styles of delivery and different styles of leadership, what it all boils down to is let's get people collaborating. Let's get leaders more collaborative with their teams. Let's get their teams more collaborative with each other. Let's get end users more collaborative with businesses. Let's just break down those silos of collaboration. And the anchor point of everything is purpose and the why. And if everybody can align to that, it just leads for a much happier, safer, functioning, impactful organization.
Yeah, when I listen to you, it makes sense. And I mean, you and I have spent tremendous amount of time in that space and, bringing it to life really, not only in terms of the theory of it, but also the practice of it. But there was something that has been kind of playing on my mind is two things. One is that, of course, does it, and it's probably a no-brainer question, Tim, so bear with me, but when you talk about purpose and the why, is it industry agnostic? Do you think this could apply in any industry for that matter? It's like not limited to IT. It doesn't matter whether you're running a small organization or a big one. It doesn't really matter, right?
No, absolutely not. I think anything where you're asking people to invest time, energy, money, calories, whatever the unit is, but you're actually, people have got to put something in. There has got to be a purpose behind it, okay? And people being able to connect with that and resonate with that and empathize with that will mean that as they do spend that money or time or energy, it's going to be done with a renewed level of focus towards that outcome, towards delivering that purpose. And it doesn't matter that work, in life, in running a marathon, in fun, in the church, anything. I think this is
Yeah.
where connection to purpose just brings an awful lot of energy and focus and alignment.
Yeah. That I can relate to it. Here's what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking from point of view of like, because it's about leadership and organizational leadership, taking taking the time and having the willingness to share more with people, which means organizations need to recognize that people are contributors, right? And just because they are employed doesn't mean that they are just part of a mechanism, right? The reason I say that is, like, in my experience, I've also seen and worked with organizations which is very, I would say, result driven, passionate and moving fast, but sometimes they forget to take people along, right? In that sense, and that's what, when you're talking about top-down hierarchical organizations or authoritative organization or leadership styles, which only sees people as like cogs in the wheel, sort of like, here you are, this is your task, do it, right? And to me, like what we are talking about purpose and like really connecting with the why requires shifting and recognizing first that you're working with people, and then onboarding on them onto that purpose requires some kind of a connection, some kind of an ecosystem, right? But many leaders in organizations, as much as we would like to believe, while they might be driven and caring enough, don't know how to do that. So could you share with us a little bit of, like, let's say for organizations which are not as open or are conventional or have, different styles of leadership, how could they, without losing their drive and without losing, without the fear that when they onboard people to the purpose, it is possible to do both, right? So could you share with us how of onboarding people to the business? I mean, just to cut the long story short.
Look, there's such important points in everything you've said there, and lots of things going on in my head here. So, absolutely, leaderships need to have a strategy, right? And to be fair, I think most leaderships do, right? People in organizations will say, we don't know what the strategy is, or we don't feel connected to it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Usually that means that there's been some collaboration, communication, alignment, misunderstanding, misinterpretation, those kind of problems. When I work with leadership teams, I think there's always a vision and a mission, but I think it's there's always more. There can always be an improvement in shaping that strategy, shaping that purpose in a way that it can then be communicated and shared across the organization. So it doesn't become their strategy, it becomes our strategy. It becomes a thing that everybody's involved in, not just the C-suite. So I think some of the challenges is about evolving some of the visionary, missionary kind of statements to the next level, so that there's just a deeper understanding. And we use frameworks like North Stars and North Star metrics and strategic goal tools, big hairy audacious goals, M-spots, OKRs. There's a whole load of different frameworks that I think are there, have emerged to really try and tackle that. Let's try and articulate out of leadership's heads and brains in a consumable format that can be shared. So I think that's the first part. The second part then is then how do we share that across the organization? The mantra, the nirvana really is really for the strategy to be, democratized and shared across the organization. So not delegated, not carved up into bits and bits given to each other, and of course then everything becomes fragmented again. But can we turn that into conversations, two-way conversations, and ongoing continuous conversations? So I think a lot of leadership teams, their answer was, well, we'll do a quarterly all hands meeting, and we'll all get up on the stage and we will present some slides as our strategy, and tick, we've now presented, now everybody knows our strategy. It's like their expectation was that everybody just clicked the download button into their brains, and suddenly they were caught up and they would be thinking the same things that were maybe discussed in that private boardroom. And of course, it doesn't work like that. Or maybe we'll send out a weekly email, right? And people look at emails, how many people actually absorb, and do they can they misinterpret? So unfortunately there isn't one answer to this. These are good things, and not saying they shouldn't have the all hands or do emails. What I do think is bridging the gap between strategy and execution needs a lot of different tools, trying different tools, different techniques, having feedback loops within that. So it's not one way, but it is the two-way and feedback, so that misalignments, misunderstandings, misclarifications, and indeed challenges, because sometimes strategies are wrong, but usually they're wrong, right? And usually the people to find out that they're wrong are the people that are doing the execution. So being able to create an environment, an ecosystem where feedback loops, safe communication and collaboration, both ways, regularly, often, in different formats, using different tools, with lots of visualization, they're the kind of ingredients, I think, that allows that to really succeed and have a shared strategy and a really well-connected strategy to execution. And that's hard to do, and it needs a lot of effort and attention. It isn't as simple as, just do this meeting or just send out this communication.
Yes,
is what we find.
No, that's true. Actually, when like you said, whenever we speak about something, it there are a lot of things that clicks and feel right, but it's also like the decision to go ahead and implement, and then when the rubber meets the road is when you get really challenged, right? And that's why when you talk about organizational transformations, why it is not like it doesn't happen overnight, or it doesn't happen in 6 months to 8 months, of course, depending on the size of the organization. But even for a smaller organization, a mid-sized organization, this could be a change that could take place over a period of time with a lot of consistency, because the things that you're talking about is not just about plugging in concepts and technology. It's about taking people along to have a mindset shift completely, right? It's a new way of working, and hey, guess what? With any new way of working, what comes up? It's resistance to change.
And it's emerging. It's not. I think that's the frustration that a lot of I see a lot of management have. Well, why can't I just do this and then it's done? Like you said, it's a change. There's resistance. There's emotion. There's human reaction, and you got to be sensitive to that. And if you are sensitive to that and build that into the whole, organization, open organizational ecosystem, then the whole management of that change, or the whole adoption of that change and understanding, becomes much easier to handle. This is where really strong leadership stands out, I think. And a lot of the work you do, Shabnor, of open organizations is what exhibits that kind of a way of working and allows that mindset to happen.
I also work with a lot of leaders and management teams who don't naturally have the sensitivity that you're talking about, right? I mean, that's an ideal condition that, okay, we have these leaders, these teams, and, when that to me is an ideal scenario. And I'm just thinking, in reality, these are good, efficient, good, experienced people, right? Not to take away from that. And they are where they are because of, all the things that they bring to the table, but also find sometimes it's harder for this demographic or this type of leadership to make those changes, right? And I'm always thinking how to help them make that change, right? I'm not saying sensitivity in terms of like, it has a lot to do with personality types also. It has a lot to do with organizational culture. It has also a lot to do with the way we have operated, or the way we have been educated or trained. This is so many factors that play out. But I do find that there are times I'm working with leaders who are open to the ideas, some who are not. And of course, the duration of that transformation takes its time. And I'm thinking how to make open leadership and, the whole idea of incorporating or bringing the sense of purpose to the organization, make it easy for such leaders in organizations who are very new to this, right? Whether for whatever reason, how have you worked, and in your experience, what has worked for you? I mean, you gave a lot of nuggets of information, but I would like you to kind of hone into where organizations are not naturally open. What could they do to, even if they don't understand it emotionally, but from practicality perspective, how can they onboard their leaders themselves?
Yeah, it's so what I find, because I've tried different approaches at different stages of my career, and there's been different strategies almost for how to do change management in this space. I think for a while there was a bit of a let's train everyone, and I've sort of seen limited success. I think it's training is good, but training often doesn't stick and doesn't change culture. The approach that I have seen work the best has always been a start small. Let's try and get a use case, a proof point, a success story, something that can be used as a little bit of a catalyst for leaders to learn from themselves, and they will have their own, and this is where I think coaching and mentoring and facilitation is really important to those leaders. But their mindset has to change at a rate that they're comfortable with. I can't just expect the mindset to change overnight or as a result of a 5-day training course or a half-day training. But what I find has worked is when we manage to start to achieve outcomes with a relatively smaller part of the organization, maybe one team or one or two teams, right? And through facilitation and coaching, we've helped those teams to perform in a different way, use some practices, achieve some outcomes, and it's more than you get in a training course or you read in a book or watching a YouTube. There are people who have managed to do this, so we're onto something. So I think that's the first point. Then the second part, I find every leader, every manager is always measured. Numbers are always an important aspect of their world, and I don't think that's ever going to change, right? We have spreadsheets, we have numbers, we have metrics, we have measurement systems. So I have found a real some of the practices that really translate behaviors and mindsets and ways of working and culture into metrics-based improvements are something that really grabs on to leaderships and creates a triggered motivation, because they're now starting to see the connection about why this works, why this kind of coaching, this kind of mentoring, this way of working is work. And then I think it's about so step one, get the proof point. Step two, get some measures to prove the proof point. And then step three, it's about, well, what are the enablers? What do we need to enable this to sustain? And the enablers or removable blockers, I think that's where the work is with management and leaders. Okay. But by that stage, we've hopefully, the light's been seen through a story, through a case study. The measures have been shown, so you can start to see the connection. So there is that extra injection of motivation, I think, and inspiration to see, okay, I see how this can work, and I see how some of the legacy approaches, methods, mindsets do need to change. And I guess the point I'm trying to get to is this: is I want to be a part of this change.
Yeah.
I see why this is a good thing. We need to do more of this. We should get more teams working like these ones. We should start to, really motivated by the, and what the leaders need to do differently. And often the leaders themselves will come up with, will arrive at the answers there rather than being told. And that's such a better way to sustain that than to sort of try and, train it into people or reprogram people's brains and stuff like that. And that's been most successful for me over recent years.
When you were talking about it, and I was I was just reflecting back. I come from learning and development and training background, right? And then I was introduced to the world of Red Hat Open Innovation Labs, if you remember. And this is where what you were talking about reminded me of the residency experience we had created, and you had led, the formation of the whole experience around it. I think that was the proof point in itself. Because we worked with tough customers, right? It wasn't about philosophy; it was about results. We had as vendors and as suppliers and the consultants and product providers. We were really at that end of our customers were our stakeholders, right? And we had to continuously think of them. And this is where I had many epiphanies, a lot of learnings, seeing the practices and the whole model in action. Could you talk a little bit about the residency experience?
Yeah. So, and I was, prior to Red Hat, I worked in consulting delivery roles, and it had always been a slight niggle for me in my own personal beliefs on what makes high performing teams, that I was responsible for basically third-party teams working inside client organizations, very high-performing, great agile teams, but I didn't really feel were making the full extent of change possible, because they were project teams who, that were there for a finite amount of time. Project funding would run out, and they would scatter, and the people would scatter in different directions, and all of that knowledge and culture would be lost for that client. Is what I found. And then this opportunity to help shape a whole new style of engagement at Labs. And I think the key word was immersive. We were immersing the people from the customer side into the technology and the culture. And we were creating a foundation for them that was part technology, because we were working for a big technology company, and also part culture, and we were working for an open culture company. And I thought these are two very important ingredients. And so the main service offering that you mentioned there, the residency that we built up over time, was this idea of an immersive 4 to 12 week time box engagement, where we paired up the customer's people with Red Hat people in this case. And we built something real. So it wasn't a training course, it wasn't a camp, it wasn't, a fictitious, let's work through all these examples. Let's go and build something that matters. It's connected to purpose, that is actually going to be talked about and be referenced. And it's going to become this proof point inside the organization. And, our goal during that was to immerse the customers into the ways of working, how to get the best out of the technology, to adopt the more of an open mindset and agile lean culture. And at the end, at the sort of the last days of the engagement, it would be the customers' people that would demo back to their leadership. This to me felt a big change in the way professional services could really enable sustained change in an organization, because it wasn't just demoing some software, it was the people demoing themselves, their behaviors, their ways of working, and the software that they built. And once we got the residency off the ground, I remember very clearly when you joined the team, Shabnor, because it became evident that we had this amazing opportunity in the sort of final weeks to really get to the leadership of the organization, because there was word of mouth was starting to get out, and we had lots of little tips and tricks, lots of little tools and lots of comms. We did videos and photos and postcards and weekly, all these things, right? And what that was doing was creating this energy within the organization. Oh, this team are over at this lab and they're doing some incredible stuff, and I've just seen what they've managed to produce in 6 weeks. It normally would take 6 months. And this was the opportunity then for us to do the third part of what I talked about in the previous question, to sort of really educate the leadership. And we used to run the open leadership enablement, and it was so powerful because yes, we could talk about the principles, the practices, but we could actually show them their people adopting these principles and practices for real, and they've been doing it. So this is more than a training. And I felt those were such important discussions, and that was the sort of the interface, the connection then to the leadership taking this on, the ownership themselves, to say, this is not going to be a one-time thing. This is not just going to be this team. This is the way we should be working, and this is the way we should be behaving, and this is the way our leadership needs to change. And really exciting, moment for some of those organizations. And I'm still in touch with some of my amazing customers. One in the Nordics that I had 6 amazing weeks with. I still talk to him every few months, and I've seen just the way his mindset shifted in those few weeks. And this is 6-7 years ago now. He's now responsible for a whole group of organizations working this way. So it was really the seed of infectious open leadership, infectious enthusiasm, that what we're putting in place in that engagement. To this day, the best services that I've ever been involved in delivering. Absolutely incredible.
Congrats to you, and of course the labs team. Like, I'm always
the whole team.
I'm totally in awe. Like, that concept in itself. And it's just so happened that, forget about the customers. Like, my way of working and thinking has changed. So for me, when I have to think of doing a training program, like in an isolated sort of, do a 3-day or a 5-day workshop, and I'm like, okay, do we have some more context? I'm looking for the same experience that we created, through the residency, and not just do a workshop for the sake of a workshop, because that, what you said, is about the immersive experience. It's like tackling the real problems on the floor with the teams, the product teams involved, the product team leaders and the organizational leaders. Like, they come together, so it becomes more meaningful, right? So the purpose comes to life in itself. And then in that process, when you're talking about practices and behavior and mindset change, it makes a lot more it makes more sense to do in that context than just do it outside the context just because, So that was something very, very powerful. And I invite, I keep talking about Open Practice Library, where, all these practices are present. I also invite people who are listening to look at some of the artifacts which are available on the websites, different websites. And your work, I think, through Stellify is also a great place to figure out and find out exactly what's been happening. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that too, towards when we start wrapping up. But I do have some more questions, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Yeah. You just kind of to close the loop on this one, there are a couple of things, terms that you had used, and I just want to make sure that we just throw some light on that, right? So something like North Star metric, you mentioned that. So, and you also mentioned the OKRs. Of course, I don't want you to do a masterclass, and we have to join in when you do. But could you just give us an idea what these are, so that we can connect?
Again, I think these are tools that, on the face of it, are quite simple, and I think are there to help with that communication challenge. How do you communicate strategy? How do you make the strategy and the execution more connected? And how do you make that more shared, right? And I think these are two frameworks. There's other ones out there which have become quite popular, and I've learned a lot about over the years. So the North Star simply is the idea of a North Star metric. If there is one metric and one metric only in your organization that everybody should know about, and that is the metric that we are trying to move that needle, and that is the indicator of success of the organization. What is that metric? Okay, and that's what people say. It can't possibly be one metric. We've got 7 metrics. I say, yeah, but if there was one, if you've got everybody, and I were to go to anybody in the organization and say, well, what is the one that would tell us that this organization is heading in the right direction and is becoming more successful? And that might be, there's a good case study around a mobile app like OpenTable. If you're familiar with OpenTable, where you book restaurants, and they've got thousands, tens of thousands of restaurants on their books. People book tables, and the North Star metric there is the number of table covers that have been booked through OpenTable, right? And you think about it, more restaurants, that will move that metric, because more time slots available on there, that will move the metric. If restaurants are more efficient and are able to get more people through the doors, more footfall, that will move that metric. So it's like everything, and there's everybody's involved in the organization about trying to move that needle. It might be the app experience could be better, more mobile friendly, more channels, that will move the needle. Marketing, more people know about OpenTable, then that will move the metric. Could be the platform, the underlying platform that allows this to be developed more quickly, more accessible from different parts of the world. That platform development, that's going to help move the needle. So it's a really nice way just to get everybody kind of aligned around just a single measure.
That's interesting. So there is this single measure, and it can be customized. So it's like, it doesn't matter which function or which part of the team I am in. Once I look at that metric, I'm able to see how I can contribute to making that happen. It doesn't have to be direct. It's like just by virtue of the work that I do as an individual, and then how I collaborate. That means how I change, how I think, how I organize, how I do things, and how I prioritize, and how I take decisions. I'm like just thinking aloud. That is kind of powerful, right? Because it's also sort of directly or indirectly giving me a sense of purpose that, because there's a purpose and there is this metric, now I know how to conduct myself in this environment, in this context.
Yeah, it's exactly, it may not be, if you are a deep techie platform engineer that is, configuring a file system, or storage, on a deep infrastructure, you might be thinking, how can I make more tables available in a restaurant? And there will not be an absolute direct. It won't be, if he does this, that means tonight there'll be more restaurant. However, they, as a result of being focused on their own measures, this is where we're starting to step into the world of OKRs. So maybe that platform engineer is trying to help move the needle on some of measures around the platform. Okay, and that could be, when a new team member joins, they need to be able to access all of our systems, and if we can get them on board and productive, in a few hours compared to a few weeks, that's a good thing. Okay, that means that platform engineer has done his or her job and is achieving a measurable outcome. It could be that that platform engineer is providing some capability, which means that all of the developers are able to achieve their outcomes quicker or more efficiently or less likely to have errors. Okay, and so that platform engineer, they're not going to change the thing about the restaurant, but they are starting to see how their work is helping another group of people achieve their outcomes. Let's go one level further. Those engineers, those developers, if they're able to get on board quicker, if they're able to code their features or get their ideas into users, you think about the business owners there, suddenly they are able to put new ideas through to the development team, and they're able to then test those ideas with their users quicker. And they're only able to do that because those developers are able to do their job quicker. They're only able to do that because those platform engineers are able to do it. So, and suddenly, if the users are getting better experience, nicer application, newer features, well, suddenly we're starting to see how that North Star needle can move in the right direction. And we've joined just a few dots: platform engineer, a developer, a business stakeholder, and then the North Star. And the North Star framework and OKRs. So OKRs would be something that you might have at each of those levels where they've each got those measures.
Right.
And we're kind of creating this constellation of stars up to the North Star.
I love that.
And that's how everyone starts to see, I help these guys, those guys help that team, and that helps the need. And that's how we're all connected.
Yeah. So when you think about alignment, when we talk about pulling the organization in a certain direction, this is how we do it, right? Like this is how the how of doing it, right? So we talk about it, but there are tools, methods, practices that allow for it to happen. And I can totally imagine, like you said, that arriving at that North Star metric might not be as easy as it sounds, right? Is this where you and Stellify can help organizations sort of, identify their North Star?
Well, yeah, it is. So Stellify is an organization that focuses on outcomes that matter and measuring them and visualizing them and connecting them. So that's partly done through a platform that we've built, some technology, and it's partly done through our team of coaches. So yes, one of the things we often will do, and we have it built into the platform, is a way to capture a North Star and a North Star metric for an organization, or part of an organization. And our coaches will often workshop that out and not necessarily arrive at the right North Star. I can tell you Stellify itself has changed its North Star several times as we are continuing to evolve our company. But yeah, first of all, kind of educating and enabling understanding about these frameworks, and then helping them set up their North Star and their sets of OKRs and connect them together, and then maintaining them. So regularly then checking in, and that's the key point that which often a lot of teams struggle with.
That could take a lot of load off, right?
Going?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that kind of support system, I think, just allows the teams and the leaders and the organizations to do the work that they need to do, and then there's Stellify can really help support the so to keep the teams on track and provide the guidance that's needed, because it's really hard to do by themselves. Is there what else does Stellify or what else can Stellify help organizations or leaders with?
Yeah, so the platform helps with that visualization. So I was always speaking out a bit of a star chart, and star chart is so the word Stellify means turn into a star or place amongst the stars, and we kind of have this metaphor in mind that organizations should be sets of connected stars, constellations, and really bright lines of energy between the different teams, and start to connect them up through measures. So we help with that visualization. Our technology helps visualize that. We help with the creation and the setting of really good measurable outcomes, and that's partly done through our technology. We have some AI that gives you some ideas and gets you off the starting blocks, and then we have a kind of a different kind of coaching. It's again, it's building on what we talked about the different kind of services that we offered at Labs, but this idea of getting little bits of help, little and often, because our goal is still to enable very high performing organizations of teams, and we find the best way to land the practices and all the many practices that we used in Labs is through a kind of little and often help, kind of a coach in your pocket. So So that's where we're still experimenting with this idea, but we're starting to find that's the way for teams to become high performing and autonomous and independent, so that they can live on that way and start to grow that way, using the visualization, using the asynchronous coaching, and a few little tools in there that we keep adding to around AI and different ways to measure. Measure is the key thing. So we have lots of things to measure confidence, cognitive load, measure the outcomes, and there's lots of little widgets that teams can then use to do that. So we do that in technology, and then we have a series of kind of workshops and trainings that kind of set that in motion.
Yeah, I'm going to share your your website link in case, I'm sure many people who might be listening to this podcast might be interested in that, and it'll be a good idea. And I invite organizational leaders, particularly the product teams, to reach out to Tim and leverage from the expertise that he and the team brings. That's my strong recommendation. So Tim, if it's okay, I'll put your company website, and is it okay if I share the LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Somewhere I had read that for a message to take roots, or even for the beginning of understanding, not the whole understanding, for it to happen, it needs to be communicated at least 7 times before it starts seeping in. And in that discussion, while we were talking, you had mentioned something about democratization and not delegation. Could we take a moment to kind of elaborate on that, Tim, so that I kind of get it, but it'll be nice to hear what does that mean? What is democratization and not delegating?
I think it's trying to make information accessible in more of a pull form and not always a push form. So push form is where the leadership run a quarterly meeting, or they send out a newsletter, and you just expect to be pushed down. Pull or asynchronous as well, but it is when that information's just available. It's there. It's accessible. There's a level of transparency made available that anybody can see it and access it when they need to. It's interesting what you say about 7 times. I totally agree. And if I just think back to some of the the engagements that I've done recently, yes, there'll usually be a start with why presentation. Often we will run practices to establish the target outcomes together in a conversation. So we'll almost regurgitate back what we understand the mission to be, and then we'll maybe write those in target outcomes and figure out some ways that we're going to regularly measure. We might use some discovery practices like impact mapping, or user story mapping, or domain-driven design practices. And I encourage leadership to be a part of those, because it's where there's two-way conversation, and it's where we're starting to create this bridge between the strategy and the execution and the deliverables that people are going to work on, how they connect through. And I think putting that kind of information very visible on a wall or on big screens that everybody can touch and move and stand around and engage and get energy around, that's another source of doing that. When we get into delivery, if we're using agile practices like Scrum, iterative incremental delivery, getting leaders into weekly or fortnightly sprint reviews provides that two-way communication. Getting them to walk, I have this term, walk the walls, where we've got lots of information on the walls that the team are using. And that can be from, discovery practices to delivery practices to their ways of working practices. And for leaders to come on regular walk the walls. Again, it's inviting conversation, it's inviting collaboration, it's inviting shared understanding, it's inviting clarification and the ironing out of misalignment and misunderstandings. Yeah, and then the forums, just having that. So I think I mean, every one of them, what we're trying to do is get engagement. We're trying to get conversation. It not
Yeah,
being one way, it not being pushed, but
yeah,
being an iterative,
yeah,
where strategy is being discussed and measurements are being fed back into
yeah.
that, and it's an iterative
Yeah,
process.
yeah. And this to me like is a perfect example, or I would say perfect description of what open leadership in action is all about. Remember, we're talking
Absolutely.
about the five pillars of, transparency, like, how we
Yes.
visualize work, how we share information. It's about inclusivity, is like involving the teams in the process of decision making, in the process of sharing information. We're talking about collaboration, because of course nothing happens without collaboration. You gave some great examples of that. We're talking about community, like and community can be, of course, there are open source communities, but here also an
Yep.
example of, community in action with large teams, product teams, the cross-functional teams working together and, leveraging that mind share. It's also about adaptability, right? With when you were talking about North Star and OKRs, and how we have to kind of keep the context in mind and be able to and willing to shift, and not
Yep.
stay fixed in the way of working, but being agile. So all of
Exactly.
that, this is exactly what we want our listeners to understand, that open leadership is not about just a certain philosophy that applies to a group of individuals up in the hierarchy. So open leadership in action is all about all the examples that Tim has just shared, and that's what we want to highlight, right? That it's with the right practices, with the right mindset, you can see tangible outcomes, tangible results, and get what you want, right? So I'm just so excited about when you describe, it's like, oh my god, that is leadership, open leadership in action right there.
It is, and it's one big ecosystem
Yeah,
that connects it all together, and that's why I'm such a big fan of the work that you do, and always have been. And those five pillars are just articulated so well. And like you say, could be a deep techie team doing very deep techie stuff, but if they're working in an environment of those five pillars, then they are connected to us. They will be connected to a strategy and a bigger purpose. So
yeah, that's fantastic. So Tim, what is an easy way, or easy, fast, quick way for people or leaders, organizations to get started on their outcome oriented journey? Where would you guide them to as a first step, if they haven't done that already?
Uh, well, if someone's starting out, I'd love to chat. I just, nothing to do with Stellify or anything, but
Yeah.
I love chatting to anyone, and I sort of invite anyone to reach out to me. And look, again, that sort of start small. It doesn't have to be at the entire leadership team. It could be, one team. It could be, we could try and start to apply this from bottom up. We could try to apply it from top down, or from the middle out. I just think that you've got to pinpoint one part of the organization where I think, we're going to try and adopt some of these practices and mindset, and we're going to measure the value, and we're going to then, use that as a proof point to see if we want to scale it. And just putting a time box experiment in place. If you've got the people to do that and the knowledge to do that, put that in place. Otherwise, enlist on some coaching and support to help you through that. But make sure it's you and your team and your organization that are doing this. That you're going on that journey as a team, rather than a sort of a legacy services company coming to do it, and not actually leaving you with the change.
Yeah, that's great. No, I mean, I have, like I said, we can continue having the conversation. I'll probably have to bring you back for some more focused discussion on
I'd love
various
that.
topics.
Love
Yeah.
that.
And is there any question that I should have asked and I haven't asked, related to outcomes? Because I have a list of questions, but I think you've like really touched upon the key points for starters. But anything that you have a burning desire to share?
No, I mean, the proof would be when people watch this and listen to it. If they have a burning question, then that feedback would be great, and that would be the motivation for us to meet again and do another iteration of this.
Indeed.
So you can never know everything up front. You can never sort of have the list of it. I've loved this conversation. Thank you for having me. And anyone watching, if Shabnor didn't ask the question that you've got in your head, let her know, and we'll do part 2.
And as well, feel free to reach out to Tim as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. So I really, really want to thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. I invite the audiences to, of course, visit stellify.com as well. I'll be sharing the link to LinkedIn if people want to connect with you. I'll also share the links to the open organization definition and open leadership definition for you to learn more about it. And if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas, and what would you like us to bring Tim back for, just let me know in the comment section below. So thanks again, and wish you all a lovely day ahead. Thank you, Tim. Look forward to seeing you again. All the best for the marathon.